Say to those who are fearful heart, do not be afraid. The Lord your God is strong, and with his mighty arms, when you call out his name.
Vitamin BS, the vitamin of blessing to nourish your faith.
Shalom, brothers and sisters. Today we are celebrating the 23rd Sunday in ordinary time. Life brings us face to face with personal and social failures. We are affected by unemployment. We are affected by toxic relationships, betrayal of loved ones, fear of tomorrow, fear of bad choices, failure of our projects. We are also witnessing failure of states, the collapse of economies, and violence in several parts of the world, the increase of poverty. Humanity is like once again in some kind of exile in Babylon. Let us listen to this message from the prophet. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong, do not fear, your God will come, he will come and save you. That is the message of the day. The first point is, let us be herald of hope. During the exile in Babylon, when the people lost everything, the temple, the land and the king, and was languishing in misery, atrocities, and utter despair, the prophet calls on Israel not to panic. Regardless of the size of the desert the people is passing through, Isaiah recalls the promise of salvation. God will come and save you. God will avenge his people. All will see the revenge of our God. This means that God will raise the heads of the humiliated one, restore the dignity of the poor. As Psalm 145 says, this God keeps his fidelity forever and does justice to the oppressed. This is the promise of the Messiah who comes to give abundant life. My brethren, this message is the mission of every Christian, to be a man and a woman of hope, and to invite the world to keep hope. It is to become a path of blessing. The most atrocious death is not martyrdom, but losing hope. For it is in hope that we are all saved. Romans 8:24. Yes, the desert of our life and our world must not bring us down like those who have no hope. To those who are fearful-hearted, whose hearts are broken, to those in day of trouble, to those in time of storm, in the day of a great sorrow, to those in time of war and insecurity, to those in time of storm, to those in need of child, food or knowledge, say, don't panic, do not lose heart. He didn't say that you will sink. God's plan, God's glory, is the living man, as said St. Augustine. The second point is, let us be doers of the word. James is warning us against partiality in the way we treat others, because we must not only proclaim the message of hope, but also be architects of this hope in our communities. Men and women of hope are men and women in God, and God does not judge like men, for God does not show favoritism, as Romans 2:11 says. My brethren, the greater glory of God in whom we believe removes the rank and status which leads to impartiality in our behavior. Remember Jesus' criticism to the Pharisees. Our societies are plagued by all kinds of discrimination, racial, ethnic, social, and financial. Because poverty has many faces, and because society do not want the poor, we hide them. We do not want them. They are a kind of nuisance to us. The Lord invites us to righteousness. Do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly, as Leviticus 19:15 says. We are all neighbors in Christ and humankind. Let us not forget two things. The first one, Lord's choice of us is not preference over others. Whatever extra we have is not out of preference. It is not that we are more important than others. It is a mission that we have been entrusted to share with many what we have received. The second thing, the Lord takes pleasure in giving particular and special mission to the poorest and the weakest. Look at Abraham, old and childless, Moses in exile, David, neither the most beautiful nor the greatest of his family, Jeremiah as a child and not knowing how to speak, Bethlehem, the most small of all. Yes, my brethren, let us not forget that the poor and the weak are God's favorites. The last point is, Ephata, open up. Our ears hear everything except the word of life, the word of hope. Our mouth says everything except the word of life, the word of hope. We are all deaf and dumb. We need to have this experience to hear Jesus say to us, Ephata, open up. May we be able to see the word as God sees it. See others through God's eyes. Because if Jesus asked that nothing be said, it was to show that he is not a simple healer. The healing he brings is more than just a physical one. Lord, open my lips, and my mouth shall proclaim your praise, as Psalm 50:15 says.